Welcome everybody to History Lessons. I'm your host, the journalist Sin-seer, and today we have a very special guest, the funky one-liner Omniscence. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Yes, sir. It's my pleasure, man.
No doubt. We're going to take it back and then talk about what you have going on in 2024, that album that's finally going to see the light of day on May the 24th. Uh,
Yes, sir.
for those who may have forgotten, can you take us back to where you were born and raised?
Yeah, man. I am originally from Bear Creek, North Carolina, the big city of Bear Creek.
No doubt. A day in the life for you as a teenager in North Carolina.
Well, Bear Creek, that's where I grew up at as far as in my early years. It's pretty rural, man. Not a whole lot going on in Bear Creek. But then as we got a little older, we started migrating to more of the bigger cities in North Carolina and dealing with those areas. But just like the average young person, just getting into stuff that I probably shouldn't have been getting into. Too much time on my hands, probably should have been doing some more, probably more constructive things. But hip hop was definitely one of those things that I'm glad I got into.
Dope. Before getting into it, what were some of your musical influences? You're not an MC quite yet, but who were some of those
Right.
artists who were influenced you earlier on?
Oh man, I mean, I come from a pretty musical family, man, who actually made music themselves, who were part of bands and singing groups and that kind of thing. And so they were also, big collectors of music. So I got into music pretty early, man. But as far as if we're talking on a hip hop level, from the very beginning, man, some of the earliest records that I heard, that I was privileged to hear, Fatback Band and Sugar Hill Gang, of course, Grandmaster Flash, Furious Five, Crash Crew, Sequence, just a lot of the Sugar Hill and the Enjoy label.
Right.
And the pro and even a little bit on Profile, I guess Treacherous 3 and that kind of thing. So when I say I was there, I wasn't there like in the Bronx. I wasn't there, but I was there I saw it come in and actually hit when it hit national. It touched down there where I was from because I had some people that were from New York and that were also traveling to New York. So they were getting the music, bringing it back down, and I got kind of like an early a jump on things as far as the people I was around. I was a trendsetter for them. Bringing them new music that I was getting my hands on.
Right. Being from Bear Creek, or is it Battle Creek? Bear Creek. Bear Creek.
It's Bear Creek. Yeah,
Bear Creek.
Bear, Bear Creek. Yeah, such a rural name, man.
Being from Bear Creek, did you guys have an earlier hip hop scene before you got into it?
Well, to be honest, in Bear Creek, there was nothing going on, man. So when I was speaking earlier about, I had to kind of venture out into some of the bigger cities in the state of North Carolina. Like Greensboro was my first spot, and also Sanford, North Carolina, where Black Sheep spent a little time down there. And so I remember actually seeing Mr. Long DJ at this teen club we used to go to in Sanford. So that's how long ago it was. But I would say Greensboro is where I first kind of got my feet wet as far as into the hip hop scene.
So what was that transition into the hip hop scene? Were you a DJ? Were you a b-boy? Or was it, MCing out the gate?
It was honestly, you want to know the truth? I got in the game as a dancer, not as a b-boy. I could pop a little bit, I could break a little bit, but no, man, I was a dance. Like I actually knew all the all the 90s. I guess you would say like late 80s, 90s Like we go to the club, we got the silk shirts on and the patent leathers and all that. So like I was at like I guess like you know how Kane
That's what
had
I was gonna
Scoop
say.
and
Scoop and
Scrap,
scrap. Yeah.
heavy had. I got in the game. I was like a dancer, but I always loved hip hop and I could recite other people's rhymes. And so what got me into the rhyming thing, man, was there was a crew out of North Carolina, the Busy Boys, and a label called Payroll Records out of North Carolina that was one of the first labels uh, from the South to put out some independent hip hop music that was like it had that sound, that golden era sound, so much to the point where Red Alert was spinning these guys' records, man. You may have heard of
Ski Beats.
Ski Beats. That's right, man. You already know what time it is. Busy Boys, man. And then I was also Supreme DJ Narbonne had a song called Versatility that was also getting a lot of play. So these guys was making a lot of noise coming out of Greensboro, and I was like, just leaving from Bear Creek, getting into that scene out there. And I linked with Ski. Actually, is the guy who we had a mutual person that linked us up, and Ski and I started. Just getting together, and he kind of took me under his wing, man. And then he introduced me to his producer at the time, because Ski wasn't even making beats, he was just rhyming. So he introduced me to his producer at the time, Fanatic, the Rhythm Fanatic. And so that's how I got started in Greensboro, and really in the music industry. That was the beginning of it, right there.
So at this point, are you guys recording demos?
Yeah, yeah. Well, you want to know what's crazy? I kind of jumped right out of the what's the saying? Into the frying pan, whatever. Yes, right into the fryer, man. I never record. The first thing I ever recorded, as far as anything ever, was a song called "Lost in the Music," which was pressed up as a vinyl. I know that sounds crazy. I had been writing, but I had never recorded anything. And so we went to this guy's house, and I think his name is Star Child. He had an in-home studio, and I didn't even know like how to formulate my bars and hooks and that kind of thing. And so I just laid down like three rhymes that I had. and next thing I know, they're like, yo, they loved it, and they was like, yo, we're gonna put a vinyl out, which was like a compilation of a lot of artists that were not on payroll, but were like the artists that was going to be coming after those guys. I don't know if that makes sense, but basically payroll was kind of having a split at the time. And so these are some guys that would have been on payroll, but because they had the split, they were like, yo, these are some young guys that we want to deal with. And let me clarify what I'm talking about. Fanatic and a guy named Mark Sparks. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he's done a lot of music. He's produced for a lot of guys in the industry as well. He did I Like It for Grand Puba. Actually, he produced Shoop for Salt and Pepper. He's done a lot of stuff, man. And but this is the early days. So him and Fanatic decided to become a production team after the payroll thing kind of ended. Ski, who brought me in the game, he left and he went to New York with Nyborn, and that's where he met obviously Clark Kent, and they, and Dame Dash, and the Rockefeller thing, all that got started at that time. Original Flavor, I guess we would say, would be the beginnings of that time for him. But I stayed down. I was too young to go with him, so I stayed back. And I started doing more and more stuff with Fanatic, the guy that he introduced me to. And so, like I said, Fanatic and Mark Sparks wanted to put together a compilation of artists that they thought was dope. And so, like I said, I had just, got introduced to these guys. And next thing I know, Ski's gone. The guy that introduced me to them, he's gone. And he's like, yo, rock with them. I'm going to New York. And so I'm like, okay, cool. And, I'm coming out of Bear Creek. So I'm like, all right, all this is fun. So long story short, my first rhyme came out on a vinyl called Back to the Lab. And the name of the song is Lost in the Music. And that was the first thing I ever really recorded.
What was that reaction like? Did people really get to that track, or did you get any feedback when that hit the streets?
Yeah. Well, according to after we did that, we started getting a few people that were just checking for the whole project in general. Because it was various cats on there. It was a compilation album, and but I did garner a few looks from some people that were in the industry, so much to the point where they wanted to get me involved in going to like some of these conventions, like the New Music Seminar and those kind of things, and we ended up performing there, so yeah, man. So yeah, it actually made a little bit of noise. But it was like the song was so different from what I would become, and I hadn't found myself truly, And so it's one of those songs that doesn't really sound. If you hear it, it doesn't sound like anything else I've ever recorded. Sometimes you might even have to say, "Is that really him?" So
what year did that song drop?
That dropped in 90.
Okay.
We recorded in 89, but I think it actually they pressed up the vinyl and got everything out there around 1990.
Right. You also participated in the New Music Seminar around 1990. What do you remember most about that?
Oh, man. Well, I've actually I participated twice in it, but the first time was 90. And what I remember most about that was they had this big showcase in Irving Plaza, and they call it the Car Wash. And on that particular night, a lot of established artists as well as up and coming artists would get out on the stage and do their thing and showcase. If you were established, then I guess you were probably just promoting your new stuff that you had coming out. And if you were up and coming, you were trying to get really signed and get a look. And what I'll never forget is it was so many acts that night on that stage, man, that performed. And it was a few groups such as Leaders of the New School, such as Brand Nubian, that didn't even have deals yet, but the people in the city knew who they were. So they were popular, And I just remember coming out there. Here we go again. It's going from 0 to 100 from Bear Creek. Then I meet some guys in Greensboro. Next thing you know, we in New York. I got a vinyl. I'm a part of a vinyl, and now I'm stepping on stage for the very first time, as an MC, and in New York City. So I don't know if I can even paint the picture for you how nervous I was, but excited at the same time, But the crazy thing, man, this is a story I never told, but everybody that knows me that was there with me that night can verify this. It was crazy. It was during an era of hip hop where all the beats per minute were like super high. Like it was a lot of fast rhyming going on, like super fast paced beats, and kind of like Public Enemy sound, like real up tempo. And so way before anybody had ever used this, we had caught the sample from Johnny Guitar Watson, the Superman lover. Before Red used it, we just had to dun, 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 dun. We had that, and we came out. I had a song called "Make the Connection," and I came out real smooth. It changed the pace, and the crowd was feeling it. I had two dancers behind me. They was doing their little dancing, smooth dancing, and whatever they was doing. And when I came off the stage, man, MC Light grabbed me. Now I'll never forget it. She was just like, yo, who are you? And who you with? And so I'm young. I had to say, like, I got to take you to my peoples, like, I let you talk to them. Because business wise, I was just a kid, man. I was only 16. So it was just like, you know, it didn't work out. I'll say that, but because we ended up sending her some more demos. We worked on some stuff but I think what it was, we were not polished, and as far as our sound we was not as polished as she might have thought we would have been. And it could have been, man, let's be honest, it could have been somebody middleman in the situation messed up the whole thing, and it never happened. But I'll never forget that, walking off the stage, and she was light at that time, at kind of, in 90, so, and she came up to me and just was like, yo, I love that. I love how you did that, and I'll never forget that night.
Very dope. Between